Hi, my name's Richard.
I'm Rachel.
Welcome to Aspirations Dance Video Lessons. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the foundational work for Latin American dancing, working to 4-beat music. So that's going to enable you to dance to rumba music, mambo music, salsa, or cha-cha-chas. It's going to cover a lot of music, not just Latin American music, but pop music as well. So a very versatile setup. We're going to be looking at the very basic work, so we won't be going into huge detail into the technique, but we will be talking about timing a little bit later on. We're going to be using the basic Latin hold that we talked about in the hold video, but you can use the club style hold as well, or the close hold if you want to adapt, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. So initially we're going to start off taking hold with each other, making sure we've got a good little bit of pressure between the palms of the hands, because this is where we're going to give the signal to our follow when we want to go. So finding our starting foot, so leads, that would be your left foot, follows your right foot, taking the heel slightly up off the floor, getting it ready. We're going to take a step forwards with that left foot, and follows will take a step backwards with the right foot. And as we move, we're going to take a good transfer of weight, and you'll see that we haven't changed position. We haven't collapsed our frame at all from this position. Then we're going to simply return to position and close our feet. And as we close, we're going to do a good change of weight, getting the other foot ready to go. Again, as we talked about in our transfer of weight video, that means we don't have to be thinking lefts and rights. We just use the foot that's ready to go, and now all we need to think about is which direction do I want that foot to go in. For this next step, I'm going to take a step backwards, so the lead will move backwards with the right foot, that's the foot that's ready to go, and follows, you'll feel the hand on the back asking you to move forwards, and at this point we will take our step with a good transfer of weight. And then again we return to position and close our feet, transferring the weight. Now that will give us our basic Latin work. Now, there are many options and changes within that we can apply over time. So we can change the closing step into other steps, where they can be forward, backward, side. We're only going to be focusing really on this very base foundation work. So the closing step is ideal to get us started, and then we can build up from there as we move on. So we'll show you the basic Latin work where the lead is moving forwards and backwards, moving the follow backwards and forwards with us at the same time, based around the frame and connection work that we've talked about in previous videos. So this is how that would look. We would have one step and then return to position, one step, then return to position. And you can see leads, we're moving forwards, follows you're moving backwards, and then vice versa. As the lead moves backwards, the follow moves forwards. It is important that we try to do that based around the connection work rather than the memory work. If we do fall into the trap of memory work where we remember the pattern, we can find ourselves very easily starting to collapse frames and things start moving in and out, and we're moving at different points to the dance. As you can see, we're not maintaining this good distance. So the framework becomes really important, the connection becomes important as we take our basic Latin work, and as we explore the timing later on, we'll talk about how we can adapt that to fit different types of music. And if you have seen the hit movie Dirty Dancing, this is one of the steps that they start off with in that. So if that was your aim to get into some dirty dancing, this is it. You've made the start to that journey right here, right now. So the next basic step we're going to look at is what happens when we both step backwards away from each other. So rather than moving with each other now, we're going to look at our initial starting foot stepping backwards away from partner. So leads, starting with the left foot, follows with the right foot, our initial starting foot. We're going to take a step back away from each other and step. Again, we're looking for a good transfer of weight here, and then we simply return to position. And as we return to position, we are looking to do the transfer of weight as we talked about in the transfer of weight video, where we lift the heel of the next foot up, ready to go. And then we're going to take a step backwards on this foot. Now we're going to find our connection is going to try to limit us a little bit here. We'll talk about that in a moment, and we'll see how we can make improvements. So we'll take that step back, transfer weight, and then we're going to come back into position and we get to our closing step. So when we look at that in full, we get back and return, back and return. Now, as I said previously, we're going to find connection issues here. Later on, we'll explore double hand holds and single hand holds, and we'll see how that frees up a little bit of the upper body work. But initially, what this is going to allow us to develop is the breathing of the Latin American dancing in the upper body. So it stops us from being too tense, because if we're too tense and we try and take those steps, you're going to see it becomes pretty awkward and we start to pull our partner around. So now we're going to get used to the pulsation of the upper body work through the arms, and now that allows us room as we get into this. And this is setting us up more for the salsa style of dancing, that relaxed upper body movement. Now, one of the other things that we may find going on here is if you take your step too big, you're not going to find that you're going to be able to do a good transfer of weight. You can see if we do this big step here, whilst it's possible to do the steps where we move the foot backwards, we're not actually transferring weight. So to enable us to do that well in this back step, a small step is optimal. So you can see we're taking the small step. And again, over time, that's going to start to develop more into the body movement, as well as you enter into some of the salsa techniques, the merengues, bachatas. We'll talk about how the body work moves the feet rather than us having to try to take those steps. But initially, work with just small steps. Don't worry too much about the body right now. Let's just get the movement working, and then we can move on now to the next basic step. So in this basic step, we're going to look at our final way of moving, because as we've discussed in previous videos, we only really have forwards, backwards and to the side. So we've looked at forwards and backwards movement in some different variations. So now let's take a look at the side step. So again, with our original starting foot, so left foot for the leads, right for the follows, we're going to take a step out to the side, and we're going to make sure that we put our weight firmly and confidently onto that step, and then we're going to return to position with that good transfer of weight in that closing step. That frees up the other side, where we can now take a step out to the side on this side, return to position, and again that good change of weight. So we're going to do that from a different angle here, so you can see what's happening with the side step. You can see we're taking the step to the side, return to position, step to the side, and return to position. Now, one of the errors that often gets made with the side step is taking the step too wide. So again, we've talked about that in our transfer of weight video. So those smaller steps are going to enable us to get good transfer of weight without overcommitting. But also, sometimes you can find that you take the step to the side and then the other foot comes in to close rather than returning to that step. So what we make sure happens here is that once we've taken that step, we don't move in towards the step, we come back away and close into position. Okay, so it's one step, return to position. And you will find that throughout all of the basic steps that we've talked about, that everything is going to be one step, return to position, one step, return to closed position. In future videos, we'll explore changes in that closing step, whether it's going to the side or forwards or backwards, so we can see some different things happening over time. But for the basic foundation work, the closing step will be absolutely fine. So when we put our dancing together out on the dance floor, we want to look at creating a little set of moves that will enable us to dance to the music and have a great time, but we don't really want to get too caught up in memory work. The reason for that is because once we start working routines and we remember differently, we've talked about this in previous videos where we said that once one person has a different idea of what should happen to the other person, then we get fights, it becomes a wrestling match, it turns into shouts and rows on the dance floor, which is never a good thing. So we want to try to build up a starting point a middle point and an end point. So we can keep it very simple, a start, a middle and an end. And that can be as wide or as deep as you like, depending on how many moves you know in dancing. But we're going to take a look at that based around the 3 basic moves that we have. So we're going to apply the very basic forward and backward move as our starting point. In the middle, we're going to put the back steps, and then for our end step or our end piece, we're going to use the side steps. And this is how that will look. Now, I'm going to do 4 of each. It doesn't matter how many you do. Multiples of 2 would be ideal at this stage, but 4 is a nice number to give you a bit of thinking time, but it's not too many that you'll be overdoing some of the steps. So here we have our 4 basics in position where we're moving forwards and backwards. And then once we complete the 4th one, we're going to change into our back. So we're into our middle part of our dance. And then once we've completed the 4th one, we're then going to move to our side. And then we're going to finish that up. And once we've completed our 4th side basic, we're now ready to rinse and repeat. Now, it doesn't really matter which order you put those in, but that gives you a good groundwork to be able to develop future moves onto. If you want to change the order, then go ahead. We want to really be working with connection work. So the framework that we talk about in the hold becomes really important. So Rachel will know when I want to take a step to the side because I will move Rachel to the side and bring her back into position. When I want to do the back step, I will give her the lead. So I'm pushing Rachel back here. So in case you can't see that, I'll over-exaggerate that a little bit. You can see I'm extending the arm and that pushes Rachel away from me. Now I don't need to do a big movement there, but because we have that pressure, Rachel can feel that. So if we wanted to change things up and I wanted to move into different steps and get into a little bit of improvisation where Rachel doesn't know which step I'm going to do next or where I'm going to go. I mean, I don't even know, but I'm going to move. But when I move, I'm moving Rachel with me. And that will give us a great foundation for some of our basic Latin work. Now, I'm not suggesting you go straight to the improvisation stage, but I can't stop you. I recommend creating a nice stable foundation of the basic work for the start, backs for the middle, and then the side basic for the end. So if you find yourself out there experimenting, then have some fun, play around with it, and when you get to the part where it starts to feel like it's a bit of a mess, use the side basic to settle things down. So then as a lead, you know that you're going to be ready to start again. And follows will know as well if we use that side basic as a consistent end piece to our dance. So Rachel, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, just to stress the importance of frame, particularly for the follows, because we don't know what's happening, we don't know what order our lead is going to do things in. Also, and this applies to both of us, if in doubt and you feel a little bit lost, you're not too sure which way you're supposed to be heading next, revert to the back step. Okay, it's very, very difficult to step on your partner if you're both stepping backwards away from one another. So if you feel a little bit anxious about what's going on, move backwards, step back away from your partner.
Yeah, so that's great information, and I've never seen anybody step on their partner's feet when they've been stepping back away from them. Maybe on someone else's, but definitely not on their partner's. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed that. Do all the usual stuff. Give us feedback, like, subscribe, call us in the wee small hours with all your problems. If it's important to you, it's important to us. We just want to make sure you're having a great time out there on the dance floor.